Hi, my name is Joanne, and I am sitting on a couch, and I am going to ask you to get comfy cozy, somewhere where you feel comfortable. Because we're going to talk about something right now that makes people feel very uncomfortable. All right, get cozy. Here it comes. We're going to talk about racism, and this is why. I am a racist. You are a racist. And now you're probably pretty uncomfortable. And that's what I've been learning throughout my book study. I took this book study class. I am a teacher. I teach kindergarten. And I took it to learn a little bit more about racism. I do teach in a city setting. And I wanted to know a little bit more about how my biases, my cultures, my beliefs impact my classroom, ultimately my students, their parents, since I teach kindergarten. It's a lot of co-teaching with parents. And what can I do to make sure that we're both being heard, understood, respected? So this is the book I found for my class, White Fragility, Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism. When I picked this book, this is what I said. I'm good. I'm pretty positive. I am not a racist at all because I'm an adoptive mom. One of the first things I read in here was, lady, you are still a racist. I always said I don't see color. My daughter's Chinese. I look at her and I just see my kid. That's all I see. But through reading this book and the biases and the fact that we all have those biases, those cultural beliefs, we are all racist. So I have to own that too. Even though I think I am different from you, I'm really not. So let's see what I've learned about our journey. Well, like I said, first thing that got shot down was the idea that I'm not a racist because I still am. And in this book, a lot of times the author refers to her own trainings on racism in different organizations. And guess what? People feel like I do. Now, it was a hard pill to swallow, but I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't talk about it even in book group. I kept reading the book. But guess what the author Robin keeps saying? White people start crying. They start freaking out. I am not a racist. How could you say that about me? Oh my gosh, I am so offended. Okay. Did you hear yourself? How could you say that about me? I am so offended. Do you see the common part? You're talking about yourself. You're forgetting that racism is not about you. It is what happens to our Black and our brown fellow humans, caused by us, white folks. That's it. So I kept reading. I did not cry. And as I was reading, there was a couple of things that really came out to me, especially the idea that prejudice is a prejudgment about another person based on social groups to which you belong. So when I thought back about my own life, what made me a racist? I thought about my own upbringing, the people I grew up in. I grew up in small town America. The cultural, the bias, the language, the lack of anyone being very different from myself, the very few people that were different from me. Then I had to think a little bit more about my family. How did my parents react? What was their tone? What did they say? Calling somebody a snappy dresser is not acceptable just because they're a different color than us. And that's the only person my dad would refer to is the Black man he knew. He was a snappy dresser. Did he look good? Obviously, yes. However, were there other people that my dad could have said that about? You bet. So see, I did grow up with those biases. You hear them, you internalize them, and then you start thinking about them, especially as you're reading books like this. Then I kept reading further, and there was this fabulous quote. Jackie Robinson, the first Black man whites allowed to play Major League Baseball. You're saying we're not racist? But remember, until Jackie, nobody else. You're telling me no other Black person was a good enough athlete to play? What made whites pick him? Now, in school as a teacher, I always teach my kids about Jackie Robinson, first African American. But I never say First black man the whites allowed to play. Why? Because that sounds a little racist. But guess what? The fact that he was is racist. There had to have been somebody else. There were probably a million Jackies before him. He was just the first one that they allowed to play. Then I kept reading. And I kept reading about how the 1% own more wealth than the rest of the planet. The richest 1%. 8 men own the same amount of wealth as do the poorest half of the world. The income of the poorest 10% of people increased by less than $3 a year. These are all statistics. And guess who is always in those top roles? White people. Guess who's in those top roles in your movies and your directors, your TV, even your authors? White people. Please don't tell me that I'm not a racist, because every time I go to a movie, I pay for that ticket. I click on that TV. I open a book. I'm reading them written or okayed by a white person. If that doesn't make us all racist, I don't know what does. Then I kept reading more. And this was a very good quote. Stopping our racist patterns must be more important than working to convince others that we don't have them. Because guess what? We do. We do. Those patterns I was talking about, the books, the literature, the movies that our children are exposed to, that we have in our culture, that needs to stop. I'm watching a film or short story right now on Hulu. And when I'm watching Little Fires Burning. So I read the book and now I'm watching the Hulu because I just finally got Hulu. And I understand saying that means that I am in a certain demographic that is able to pay for that. It actually came free with my cell phone. But I can remember friends of mine prior to me watching it, they did watch it and it was like, why is Mia black? Why is that character black? Now I'm watching that story through different eyes, thanks to my book and my work in my club. And I'm realizing there's a reason why Mia is black. There's a reason why Elena is white. Watch that. Watch that. If you have watched it, think back to all of those things that they're saying, the actions. And if you don't think that there's a problem with racism in this country, you need to watch it again. It is very, very biased. And again, that's what we're talking about. The other quote that made me exceptionally sad was, racism hurts people of color 24/7. Interrupting it is more important than my own feelings, ego, or self-image. Life is worth more than me having my feelings hurt. My feelings are hurt, they'll repair. Somebody is gone, they're gone forever. Then the author says, what has enabled you, I guess that means me, maybe you too, to be a full educated professional adult and not know what to do about racism? Because that was always my question in book group. What do we do? Then she goes on to say, people have been telling us this for years. They've been giving us the map. We just keep crying, or we keep saying, please don't tell me I was racist, or, oh my goodness, that hurts my feelings, or, oh, boo-hoo. As soon as I start crying, that makes it about me. As soon as I start saying, you've hurt my feelings, that makes it about me. And then the struggle comes back to me, the white person. It does not stay where it belongs, the struggle of the brown and black humans, where it needs to be. And this last one is so very important. And it's basically it. I just admitted I'm a racist. What can I do about it? When we get sick, we go to the doctor. They give us a little prescription, right? When you have a problem, like you're an alcoholic, you have a drug problem, you go to things like Alcoholics Anonymous. You go into counseling. You go into rehab. And you work on yourself. So, By admitting that we are racist, that means that we need to work on yourselves, right? I need to work on myself. My first step was reading my book in my book club. My second step is there's a couple other books about teaching friends that I want to read because that will help me in the classroom. It is watching the films. It is reading the books. It is talking to my brown and black friends to see how I do come across. How do they interpret what I say, what I do? And that way I can check myself and my own biases with people that I trust to be honest with me. I'm not looking for what I do right. I'm not looking for somebody to make myself feel better. I want to know when I walk out my door, am I fighting this fight? Am I stopping to end racism? And remember that we are all part of humankind. So now that's what I'm encouraging you to do. Look at yourself. Admit what you are. And if you are a racist like me, figure out what is your prescription. How are you going to fight this fight? And I'll see you on the walk. Thanks for listening.